Imagine, imagine everything you've been taught, uh, whether it's through Sunday school or through uh, regular formal education in school, or what our political leaders have told us. And yes, you maybe our mothers and fathers around the dinner table have told us, or maybe at bedtime, about who we are, right? Our background and our past. Um, what if all of that turned out to be not entirely accurate? In fact, the very history of our species, the meaning, what it means to be a human being and our place in this universe. What if all that is now in question? What if it turns out that a lot of the things that we thought were one way aren't? Are are we prepared to have that honest question with ourselves? Are we prepared to recognize that we're not at the top of the food chain potentially? That we're not the alpha predator, that we are maybe somewhere in the middle. Um, it's interesting because I was having a discussion with a friend not too long ago. A really, we call them graybeards in the government. Really, really smart guy. I'm not going to mention his name, but I was talking to him probably a couple months ago, and this is a guy who was always paid to solve the hard problems for the U.S. government. Cold War. How do we solve that, right? How do we do these big things? How do we go in and beat the Russians at their own game? So this guy I respect tremendously, and we had a conversation. He said, Lou, mankind's been around for a while, and for most of that time, mankind's been around. We've been smack in the middle of the food chain. We've been, we ate a lot of things. A lot of things ate us, and that's just the bottom line. And about 70,000 years ago, something fundamentally changed. Something changed, and our species was instantly catapulted to the very top of our planet as far as predatory animals. And now all of a sudden, we became the most feared. We were the most lethal and the most successful. In fact, most of the large species that existed on this planet went extinct because of us. Believe it or not, because we were eating all of it. There were a couple of species that did very, very well with our ascension, our immediate ascension, and we brought a couple species with us. The dog is an example, where the dog species benefited greatly with mankind's ascension as the alpha predator, and wound up succeeding as well, doing very well off of that. That changed the entire global landscape of our planet almost overnight. Large animals went extinct because of us. What if it turns out that there's another species that is even higher on that ladder than we are? Do we need the social institutions that we have today? Will we need governmental and religious organizations that we have today if it turns out that there is something else or someone else that is technologically more advanced and perhaps from an evolutionary perspective more advanced? Have we been wasting our time all this time? Or are we doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing? Does it turn out that mankind is in fact just another animal in the zoo? Or, because we thought ourselves as a zookeeper before, but maybe we're just another exhibit inside the zoo. What would that mean to us? So when I say sombering and sobering, I mean that there's going to come a point in this conversation where we're going to have to do a lot of reconciling with ourselves, whatever that means, from whatever philosophical background you have. This is going to impact every single one of us the same and yet equally and yet differently. And I think that's important. Do we find ourselves in a situation where history may have to be rewritten? that's what I meant. Now, as far as the charlatans, I'm not going to give any attention to individual charlatans because they already have enough attention. They know exactly who I'm referring to. These are individuals who have made a cottage industry, a career of taking people's hard-earned money and deceiving them. And not only deceiving them, but having them sign non-disclosure agreements to make sure they don't tell the world that they've been deceived. And preying upon people who for whatever reason, believe in them. Um, People who say my narrative is the only narrative, and anybody else who tells you otherwise, is trying to hurt you. I have all the answers. I have the solution. Anybody who says that, I think is a charlatan.